something like maybe a Likert scale survey where you're asking students to agree with a range of choices might get at the heart of this, and supplement it with more quantitative questions such as pre and post test. I think it would give you a pretty holistic picture of what actually went on in the students' learning in these environments.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of what they felt about it, and then getting some hard numbers on how they did.
Right, right. And between the two, I think you have a pretty good snapshot of their overall experience with this curriculum.
Okay. Rob, are you still with us? Maybe not. How about Lynette?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, my apologies. I'm back in my office now. Well, I was thinking the piece that's missing is, we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know how good our curriculum is until we have students that go into the workforce, and then they can tell us what they learned in class applied to their job, whether it did or whether it didn't. If we don't have a benchmark right now, we have to start from somewhere, and in this case, we might have to start in the end. Now, keep in mind that I'm coming in on conversation late, but it's hard to benchmark something, if we don't know exactly what we're measuring. And it doesn't sound like we got there yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm scrambling to take notes. Lynette, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I started talking and realized I was on mute.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. I was just saying I don't really have any of my notes I took to add have already been said, so I don't want to take time repeating people, but yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be difficult with brand new things to try to collect different points and pull out, but on our campus for curriculum anyway, we are doing a pilot this spring and having faculty review it and then having students review it, and then we'll at least have a one-time use, or one time we'll have students review it the first time and then perhaps use that as our jumping off point for further evaluations. Each quarter we offer it.
Great. Oh yeah, that's great. That would be great to see some of that too. Cindy, what comments do you have?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I have to agree about, one of you came up with the question, do you understand the industry needs for these materials? And that, without knowing that this has just been inserted into the program or the course, they may not understand that. So I suppose how you lead in with that question, that we've developed these course materials in health information technology, specifically this area, and then build your questions off of that. And I was just thinking of, I can't remember who was talking about the medical assistants not understanding or only thinking they're going to be doing blood pressures. And we just met with industry yesterday, and they have a new model developing here locally where the physician is working with the MA, and the MA is a scribe entering everything into the EMR while the physician focuses on the patient. And so maybe even helping our students understand that there's change occurring in the industry now and it'll look different, and then maybe they'll be able to react better to why we're even asking about the insertion of these materials, or if they're understanding it. Okay.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the next one? Let's do it. So we also want to get, well, we need to decide if we want to get faculty reaction to the grant-sponsored course materials. If there's anybody who doesn't approve, raise your hand. Maria, your hand's still up. Can you unraise it? Oh, thank you. So I think we all agree that's really important to get some feedback from our faculty about these course materials that are being developed. What are some ways we can gather this kind of data? I'm thinking one-on-one interviews is certainly one way to do that.
SurveyMonkey might be helpful too.
Yeah, a survey on some kind of online gathering tool would be good. Other discussion on this one? All right, let's move on. All right, the third thing that we came up with is student knowledge and skills gained. And so let's get an approval rating on this one. Anybody doesn't think this is important or that we need to measure?
And the pre and post test, that's just one suggestion for a way to do this.
May I ask a question first?
Yes.
What is the difference between student knowledge and skills gained and resulting student performance in criteria number 4?
Well, you raise a good point there, Greg.
Well, I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that both are important, but I think that both are kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And they just, number 4, the parenthetical item is just an additional way to gain that information in addition to the pre and post test. So yeah, we should just combine those.
All right, so we'll look at 3 and 4 together. And is there anybody who...
Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. These were a little bit different because number 3 is looking at the student knowledge and skills gained. Number 4 is looking at their performance as a way to evaluate the course materials. Well, never mind. I guess it is the same.
Actually, I can't see question 4. What?
On the agenda, it's number 4 under number 4. Yeah, under the second. Yeah, under the second agenda item, number 4, under the committee review. I did. Yeah, do you have the latest agenda, Maria?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's not up on the PowerPoint because I put them up separately. So are we still thinking?
Yeah, no, we can combine them.
Yeah, we're still going to combine them, though, 3 and 4. So is there anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's just I'm looking at that because, I mean, when you look at student, like the pre-test and post-test, normally that's done, I'm just going to talk about my experience, is normally it's done as a whole, it's anonymous. We don't know if anybody improves and when you're collecting data. And you're hoping by the time they take their post-test that everybody's increased, like, their knowledge of hitting those certain objectives. I think that's totally different, though, from the student's actual performance itself.
I agree. This is Cindy. I feel the same way. I think that it's the student assessing what their skills and gains and knowledge are, not necessarily how we're grading them on their activities and quizzes and projects. and it's a beginning and an end.
Right, and especially if you take it as a whole and it's anonymous, you can really determine how many people, so let's say they are coming in with just basic computer skills. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will turn in their assignments, show up to class on time, and everything that you're being graded for. They may be a genius on the computer, so.
So keep them separate?
Yes.
One question I have, too, is are you looking at this per course or per program?
What do you all
Well,
think would make
I would say per course, because it depends on how much has been inserted into the program. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I take that back now. At the end of the program, they'll know exactly where they started, and if some has been infused into several courses, it would be hard to know, I think, beginning and end of the program. I had to think that through.
Yeah. All right, so let's first get a sense of whether or not most of us feel like we should keep 3 and 4 separate. I think that would be a good place to start. Why don't you use the hand-raising tool and raise your hand if you think we should keep them separate. Raise my hand. I'm Margaret.
Oh, no, the moderator doesn't.
Okay, I can't raise my hand, but I'm raising my hand. I'm raising my hand. And then it looks like several of you maybe think we should combine them. So let's talk about that a little bit. Oh, what happened? Okay, so only one person thinks we should keep them separate. Is that correct? So we're going to raise our hands if we would like to keep them separate. So Donna, you think we should go ahead and combine them, 3 and 4?
I'm still torn, but yes.
Yeah, go ahead and combine them. How about you, Greg?
I think of them as being aspects of the same thing. I can see the distinction which is implied, one emphasizing student learning and student knowledge, and the other emphasizing, I think, on the curriculum itself. But I think that you can address both in the same way, and I actually think you get a better big picture by combining them. But look, I can think about it either way.
The other thing that we might be...
in my own mind, I'm going to combine them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And it may be the kind of data gathering that we're talking about rather than the criteria itself, if that makes sense. Because we're talking sort of about the difference between a pre- and post-test than student performance. So it may be that what we're talking about is how we're collecting the data. And we may want to collect several types of data. So based on what I'm seeing up on the computer screen, we are going to combine 3 and 4. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the ways we could collect this data. What do you guys think about pre- and post-tests?
One of the things I was thinking of, since my students start the summer, was use the PLA that we're working on and use it as a pre-test at the beginning of the course. And,
great idea.
Because I figured I needed to test out the PLA questions too, so that was kind of a good way to start it, to get rid of questions that were terrible and fix them right away. But that could also be the pre-test, and then rearrange them or something at the end as post-test. because it also gives us some baseline if we actually use it as, you know, as we're creating our PLA long-term, how did our actual students do before we figured this is a good tool to use as PLA.
Boy, that all hangs together nicely.
I like it. Rachel, what comments do you have?
At this point, I don't really have any. I'm trying to think of this long term. I guess I need a few minutes to think about it.
Yeah, let it kind of sink in. And one of the things, of course, that we need to think about, especially on the student knowledge and skills gained, these pre and post test ideas, is those of us who are doing infusion for spring quarter.
Right.
Has anybody?
Sorry. That's
Go ahead.
That's kind of why I'm confused. I mean, we're already into week 5 of this quarter, and I just don't know how that would work at this point.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking, for myself, I've lost my opportunity for the pretest.
Okay.
And so I'm just looking at ways I can gather some data before the end of the quarter or at the end of the quarter that will help me make some improvements. And that would certainly be the analysis of how they're doing on their activities, quizzes, and projects. Would certainly be one way to get some of that data. Well, since we combined 3 and 4, shall we move on to number 5? Kind of an interesting one to look at. Let's do it. Yep, that's 4, and then we'll move on to 5. All right, so health IT content in infusion programs. The number of hours, so looking at health IT content in infusion programs, let's get an idea of if we all approve or if we've got some people who do not approve. Let's do our hand show again.
I'm not sure what
Can you talk about that a little more? What do we measure?
We're looking at, we're going to get back to the PowerPoint here in just a second.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Okay, so we're looking at one of the criteria for our curriculum development is the HIT content in the infusion programs.
And number of hours is just one simple metric we can look at. There are probably many others that we could consider as well.
So what we want to know is this something that we feel like we need to look at for improvement? Is it a way for us to measure?
I think it would be an easy one to demonstrate improvement in, because I know for most of the colleges it was a challenge to find time to squeeze in health IT content in already jam-packed curricula. And I know the majority of the colleges are looking at a health IT light infusion spring quarter and then doing a more robust infusion in the fall.
So are you talking about here of what, how much HIT was offered before we in place, before the grant came in compared to after?
Or how much health IT content, I think probably that's a good measure, and then also on the first round, first implementation, how much was implemented, and then subsequent to that, how much was implemented.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile measure.
Great.
So is there anyone who doesn't think that it's a worthwhile measure?
How many
I'm a little
times
bit
is it
concerned
going to be
about
measured?
quality over quantity.
Okay, so Rob, you said, are we becoming more concerned with quantity over quality?
Yeah, I just said it backwards, but yeah.
Oh.
You know, I mean,
and then who else was that?
But we're successful if we add more.
How many times we're going to measure
The program's
this?
already set up right. Why do we have to add more?
Okay, let's let Rob. Okay, Rob, why don't you finish and then we'll do Maria. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, you know, you mentioned that you know, round 1 versus round 2. What if it's put together the right way on round 1? You know, I don't want to think that success is measured in you know, additional hours of IT infusion when the program may be set just the way it is. Now, if we have to add more, we actually might damage the program. So I'm not really seeing where that's a good measurement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the point. You know, I can see both sides of it, Rob. On the one hand, one of the premises of our grant was that health programs lacked health IT content. So that was sort of the driver behind documenting this. And while, of course, we're looking for quality, I think quantity actually does matter in terms of the health programs, how much health IT content can be incorporated. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, is it going to make someone look bad if they don't increase the number of contact hours, let's say, of health IT content in a program when really it's not warranted?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's see. So colleges that are infusing will deliver to DOL through us curricular elements. Mm-hmm. So we'll know, the DOL will know what an inventory of constituent parts looks like, right? Mm-hmm. And then this gets more at, I think, were they infused and to what effect? Does that have more to do with maybe I'm wondering, with the instructor experience and reaction? Then
I'm not concerned about the reaction from the instructor.
Or experience, the instructor's experience with that new material.
No, I see what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
So we're already getting at that in the earlier
Right,
the
that's what
faculty
I'm
reaction.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we already will have an inventory of what's been produced.
So I was looking at it as a part of all of these things to demonstrate improvement over the life of the grant.
Yeah, and Margaret, I think that what you said earlier is going to become very salient to this group very soon, which is as soon as the evaluator enters this group, as soon as we receive the budget revision request, and I'm afraid that there's going to be some imposition, some very strong opinion and requirements really for evaluation. So I'm almost thinking that, we had all thought that the evaluators would be in with us by now, but I'm wondering if we actually need a cross-check about what is in the evaluation plan regarding these elements so that we're not in conflict. Because some of that is simply delineated, and it's going to be approved by the Department of Labor. We don't have a say in that, really. So I guess the work that we're doing now, of course, will form the basis, and it would definitely be valuable in starting our conversation, this group's conversation with the evaluators.
And to gather some baseline data while we still have spring quarter
Oh,
students.
I agree. I'm very much agreeing with you that as soon as the evaluators are here, we'll have a whole other set of considerations that may be complementary, but they may not be.
True.
Yep.
So are you saying that we should not go further with this?
Well, I even hate to say it out loud because who in God's name is going to do this? But I think probably the most crucial thing for us to do is to actually take proposed evaluation plan and see where it aligns or is misalignment with the kind of decisions that are being made right now.
Yeah.
Because that's not really up for grabs. Well, some of it is.
Yeah.
In terms of, if I remember correctly, survey and
The frequency.
the frequency and you know who's getting surveyed and
Students and faculty.
Yes. Yeah. So I know that we're overlapping here. I don't mean to make things more complicated, but I also hate for us to have to backtrack in a way. But I don't have an answer to this. I'm just bringing this about.
So should we discontinue?
What do you think? What do you guys think?
I think it's worthwhile to have this discussion.
I definitely do, but I just would like to stay mindful that there might be some changes that this, we're not setting in concrete here, because we're going to have another very important voice at the table very soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And my recollection is the only thing in the evaluation plan that's at any level of detail is the proposed frequency of faculty and student surveys. It's the only thing I recall, but I'll check.
All right, so if I understand the dialogue that's just happened, we need to take a look before we go a whole lot further, and we just kind of need to do a cross-check with the proposed evaluation plan, even though we haven't heard back from the DOL yet. So that's one. So it's good that we've only done one of these.
And when we say evaluation plan, it is not any sort of detailed plan. So we don't know what questions will be asked. We know things at a very high level, like faculty will be surveyed and students will be surveyed, but not much beyond that.
Right. But it sounds like we can continue with the work we're doing here.
Definitely.
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So can I jump in real quick about this HIT content infusion program?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I was asking about the frequency of how this is being offered, the only reason, it's just looking at our program, you see we had 0, so there was no HIT content being offered. We had the workshops, and now we have 10 hours, and then all of a sudden now, when the fall quarter comes, we have full classes. So, I mean, and if it's going to be, but if you're going to keep asking every quarter after the fall quarter, there's not going to show any improvement, only improvement in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the frequency, if it's something that's going to be, how many times has it changed during the grant, you're going to see a change. But if you're saying, if you're going to go like in the middle of the grant and keep asking, there's going to be some stability there. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, so maybe it's a, either we take this out or we just do spring and fall and very end of the grant, or, you know, something like that, some sort of frequency that makes sense.
So maybe it's time to get a sense of whether or not we should even measure this, whether we should even collect data on this. What we want to look at is a raise of hands if you think we should, let's just do, if we want to do HIT content in infusion programs. If you approve that, raise your hand. Yeah, I'm raising my hand.
Okay, that's a majority then.
Now, like Cindy, for example, is only calling in. She can't raise her hand.
Oh, right. Cindy, are you just a call-in, or are you on WebEx as well?
I'm a call-in. It still won't let me into WebEx. So I have my IT coming on Friday, and they're going to fix it. So I keep trying.
So frustrating.
I know. It's not, something's wrong with my computer. So anyway, they're going to fix it for me.
majority.
Do we want to keep the HIT content infusion programs piece in there?
Yeah.
Well, it is something simple to measure, so I'll raise my hand to keep it. Okay.
All right. So it's almost unanimous. So we will keep that in. And then we'll go to the last one. So here we go. Alumni employed in relevant roles input on whether content is aligned with workplace needs. So I hadn't thought about this, and I think I actually think it's a really, I like it. What do other people think?
I think, this is Donna, I think in my track it's going to be kind of mixed. I think they're going to be glad to finally get some health IT into database area, but because everybody's doing something different database-wise, I think I'm going to get some industry people saying, well, you forgot this, you forgot the other, and other people saying, oh, you got exactly what I needed. I mean, I get that at my advisory committee already. You can't, in the database arena, you can't make everybody happy. But if it's just the health IT piece, you know, like the KHIM stuff, then I think I can probably get some consistent answers. So at least when we start shaping the questions, I would probably want to keep some of that separate.
Right, and this would particularly be looking at graduates getting their input on whether or not the health IT content that they received is aligned with what they're finding in the workplace.
Well, and like I said, still with the database side, you're going to, just from my last database degree that we did when it was just straight database, every company uses different databases, so if you know, they go to a shop that's Oracle, they're going to say, no, they didn't get the right stuff. But, you know, you can't, and if they're at Epic place, I didn't teach Epic. Or if I was Cerner, I didn't teach, you know. So, you know, with a general umbrella there of, I have to teach 25 students something that's still marketable, we'll just need to make sure we word the questions in a way that takes that into consideration. Otherwise, you'll always get at least half my class at any one time saying no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hitting that they got the foundation.
The same thing.
Yeah, they got the foundation skills they needed, but you know, that first couple months they might feel like why didn't you teach Epic instead of ER Star or something?
Right.
I think it's a relevant measure. I just worry about how we're going to get their feedback once they leave. I know it's one thing when students are in the classroom and you can go in and kind of pound them, but once they leave, you know, I just worry about that. But I think it would be worthwhile.
Yeah.
I agree. It would be difficult to reach the students and have them give input. I think it might work well with a student navigator role to try to maybe gather that information.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has been difficult in the past.
I guess it depends too on the programs. You could almost, if you know, with nursing, when they're in clinicals, you could almost ask them at that point, even though they're not officially alumni, and, you know, I don't know.
I like that idea of asking them during externship or while they're doing the practicum.
Because they're still here, so you can still reach them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a way around that problem for sure.
And also, how do we, what is considered relevant roles?
So, for example, if someone in Lynette's program got a job that had nothing to do with health IT, that was just in networking, that wouldn't be a relevant role, but a health IT role would be.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do our show of hands again if you think that we should try and collect this data. And I'm voting yes.
This is
So
Cindy, and
like,
I'm voting yes. It's Cindy.
all right, so we have a majority. We will try to collect this data. And we've gotten some good ideas, like doing it during clinicals or practica, that kind of thing. What other ways could we gather the data?
And Cindy's suggestion about kind of leveraging the already established relationships with the navigators is a good one. If there's a relationship there, they're more likely to provide the information.
And if they're in their practicum or externships, the student navigator is still in touch with them, trying to help them find jobs. So they're still in contact, or so they should be.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
Esther, a quick question, just thought of something. Because the student data allows for students to go on to a higher level degree, do we want to put a kind of a subtopic under here for people who decide to go on to a 4-year degree instead of going into the workplace?
What do other people think? That's an interesting question.
I think it's important, especially with some of the articulations that we're developing. So.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and consider adding that in then, alumni and further education.
So input on whether the content sufficiently prepared them for further education?
Is that what you were thinking, Donna?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Further health, I guess we might want to be specific, further health IT education, but yes.
Right. Okay. Any other comments on this particular walkthrough? Anything else we want to talk about with curriculum development?
I'd like to add one more thing to 5.
Yeah.
And we're getting the alumni's point of view, but can't we match that up with the employer's point of view? An employer survey asking them the same question on whether or not their education meets the workplace's needs?
Didn't we, I'm trying to think in my mind about the evaluation piece, and I think that yes, that's right. So I think that, Margaret, it would just be helpful that it might behoove on a college level to include that information, but that we're not necessarily gathering and conveying that on a consortium level. Is that what you're thinking?
I think so. Rob, it's great information to have, but I know at our college we were very careful about what we ask of our employers, because we don't want to wear them out.
And how often, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know this came up when we were talking with our evaluation team, and they were originally wanting to have all kinds of meetings and discussions with our employers. We didn't want to do that at the risk of alienating our employer contacts, which are as valuable as gold.
And we're certainly not suggesting that colleges adopt our outlook, only that we would encourage that if it has a utility for an individual college, but we're not probably going to look at that at a consortium level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we're right about the top of the hour. The next step, I just wanted to reiterate again that those of us who do have spring quarter infusion courses will be starting to gather some of this data for collecting the data for the curriculum development. So I think we'll probably hopefully be sharing a lot of ideas and information on how to gather this data.
Do you want to follow up with a call out for volunteers to develop a few things to run by the group? Or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, does anybody, why don't I put something together and I'll send it out, and maybe we can get some people to work together or give us some examples of some things that we can use as a group. All right. So our next meeting, we're going to try and get through 2 of these. We'll be looking at retention and PLA. So that'll be at the June meeting. Anything else that we want to look at today? All right, well, this was a really great, productive meeting. I really appreciate everybody's input, and I'll be talking to you. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.